Most travelers come to Iceland for the Golden Circle, but beyond the famous waterfalls and geysers, there are fjords where the roads nearly disappear, volcanic highlands that look like another planet, fishing villages facing the North Atlantic, and skies that erupt with northern lights. And most visitors never go that far. Iceland may look small on the map, but its landscapes feel enormous. The distance between destinations isn't measured just in kilometers, it's measured in the shift from crowded parking lots to absolute silence, from paved highways to gravel tracks that test your vehicle and your nerve. What people think Iceland is. When people picture Iceland, they imagine waterfalls, geysers, glaciers, and geothermal spas. They think of the famous Golden Circle. And that version of Iceland exists. It's accessible, well-marked, and designed for visitors who have limited time. Tour buses arrive on schedule. Boardwalks guide you to the best viewpoints. Cafes serve hot chocolate within walking distance of every major attraction. But Iceland stretches far beyond these well-known stops. Once you leave the busiest routes, the country becomes quieter. The landscapes become wider. And the feeling of isolation becomes part of the experience. You begin to notice the absence of other travelers, the long stretches between gas stations, the way the wind changes the mood of an entire valley in minutes. This is where Iceland stops performing for tourists and simply exists. The Golden Circle, the anchor. The Golden Circle introduces visitors to Iceland's dramatic geology. At Þingvellir National Park, two tectonic plates slowly pull apart. You can walk between continents here, standing in the Rift Valley, where North America and Eurasia are literally drifting in opposite directions. The ground beneath your feet is still moving, just too slowly to feel. At Strákr, boiling water erupts from deep underground every few minutes. The geyser doesn't announce itself. It simply launches a column of scalding water into the air, then settles back into stillness until the next eruption builds. And at Gullfoss, glacial water crashes into a narrow canyon. The waterfall drops in two massive tiers, sending mist into the air that catches the light differently depending on the time of day. It's one of the most visited routes in the country. Thousands of people walk these paths every day during peak season. But it's only the beginning of Iceland's landscape. It's the introduction, not the full story. The Westfjords. In the far northwest, the Westfjords feel almost separate from the rest of Iceland. The region is connected by only a narrow strip of land, and the road network here is limited, winding, and unforgiving. Steep mountains drop directly into the ocean. Roads curve around long fjords. Each turn reveals another empty stretch of coastline, another fishing village clinging to the edge of the land. Villages sit quietly along narrow strips of coastline. The distance from Reykjavik discourages casual day trips. The roads require attention and time. The weather can change rapidly. And that isolation shapes the experience. Here, you're more likely to encounter sheep on the road than other tourists. The silence feels deliberate, not accidental. Iceland's highlands. In the center of Iceland lies the highlands, a vast volcanic interior formed by eruptions, lava flows, and glaciers. This is where Iceland's volcanic activity has been most intense, creating landscapes that look sculpted by forces that care nothing for human presence. The terrain here feels almost otherworldly. Black sand deserts stretch toward distant mountains. Glacial rivers braid across valleys. Steam rises from fissures in the ground. Roads only open during the summer months. During winter and spring, snow and ice make the interior completely inaccessible. Even in summer, conditions can be challenging. Rivers cross directly through the landscape. But the scenery feels unlike anywhere else in Europe. The sense of remoteness is absolute. You can drive for hours without seeing another person, another structure, another sign of civilization. Most travelers leave Iceland thinking they've seen it. But the deeper you explore, the more it changes. If you enjoy discovering destinations beyond the obvious, this channel is built for that. We focus on the places that require more time, more curiosity, and more willingness to step away from the itinerary everyone else follows. Remote fishing villages. Along Iceland's coastline, small fishing villages remain essential to local life. These towns weren't built for tourism. They exist because of the sea. Harbors fill with working boats. Trawlers return with the day's catch. Crews unload their haul onto docks, where processing happens within hours. Colorful houses stand against the wind and sea. The bright paint, reds, yellows, blues, creates contrast against gray skies and dark water. For generations, fishing has supported communities across the island. Before tourism became significant, these villages were where Iceland's economy lived and breathed. That foundation hasn't disappeared. These towns feel quiet, almost pause between storms. Life here follows rhythms determined by weather, tides, and fishing quotas rather than tourist seasons. And the ocean remains central to everything. It provides income, shapes the culture, and dictates when boats can leave and when they must stay in port. Iceland's changing light. Iceland's light changes dramatically through the seasons. In summer, the midnight sun barely sets. Days stretch late into the night. The sun dips toward the horizon, but never fully disappears, creating long twilight hours when the landscape glows with soft, golden light. This extended daylight allows for late-night hikes, midnight drives, and a sense that the day never truly ends. In winter, darkness arrives early. By mid-afternoon, the sun begins its descent. By late afternoon, night has settled across the island. But this is when the northern lights often appear. Green and purple ribbons moving silently across the sky. The aurora borealis dances above mountains, fjords, and frozen waterfalls, visible only when solar activity, clear skies, and darkness align. It's never guaranteed, which makes each sighting feel unforgettable. You can't schedule the aurora. You can only wait, watch, and hope the conditions cooperate. Icelandic food and tradition. Icelandic cuisine reflects the island's environment. It developed in isolation, shaped by what the land and sea could provide during long, harsh winters. Seafood remains central along the coast. Fresh fish, cod, haddock, Arctic char appears in stews, grilled preparations, and traditional preserved forms. Lamb raised on open grazing lands appears in many traditional dishes. The sheep roam freely across mountains and valleys during summer, grazing on wild grasses and herbs, which gives the meat a distinct flavor. Meals are simple and hearty, designed for a climate where winters can feel long. Thick soups, slow-cooked stews, dark rye bread, and root vegetables. These are foods built for sustenance and warmth, not elaborate presentation. But there's also innovation happening in Icelandic kitchens, where chefs blend traditional ingredients with modern techniques, creating a food culture that respects the past while moving forward. Why travelers explore more of Iceland? Iceland's popularity has grown rapidly over the past decade. What was once a niche destination has become one of Europe's most visited countries per capita. But many travelers now move beyond the Golden Circle. They realize that the most famous sites, while impressive, represent only a fraction of what Iceland offers. The ring road circles the entire island, connecting glaciers, waterfalls, volcanoes, and remote coastal towns. It takes roughly 10 to 14 days to drive the full loop with time to explore along the way, and each region feels distinct. The country rewards those who take time to explore it slowly. Those who camp in remote valleys, who wake early to hike before crowds arrive, who spend nights in small guest houses where the owners remember your name. Iceland isn't designed for quick consumption. It reveals itself gradually. Who this side of Iceland is for. This side of Iceland is for travelers who enjoy dramatic landscapes, for those comfortable with distance and quiet, for people who want nature to feel powerful and unpredictable. It's for those who don't need constant connectivity, who can drive hours without seeing another car and find that exhilarating rather than unsettling. It's for travelers who pack extra layers, who check weather forecasts twice, who understand that plans might change based on conditions. Iceland offers that sense of scale. The feeling that you are small, that the landscape existed long before you arrived, and will continue long after you leave. Iceland isn't just waterfalls and geysers. It's remote fjords, volcanic highlands, fishing villages, and skies that shift without warning. And once you move beyond the obvious stops, you realize how much more there is. How many valleys remain unexplored? How many coastal paths lead to places without names on the map? How many moments of stillness wait between the landmarks? This is the Iceland most tourists never see. Subscribe for more journeys beyond the tourist version. What part of Iceland would you explore first?